Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to be covering about REFramework, that is the Robotic Enterprise Framework is used in UiPath. You can say that this is the type of framework that is used in the industries or in the big companies. This is the best framework when we used. This framework will be including exception handling mechanism and the logging mechanism as well. It's based on state machines. Okay, so I'll be covering it into 4 parts. We'll be discussing it into 4 parts or 3 parts. Okay. All the 4 states of RE framework, I'll be making a separate video out of it so that you guys can understand it very much easily. Okay. So let's get into it, guys. So as you know that we'll be opening this application, so you guys can select RE framework over here. It's called Robotic Enterprise Framework, and it's written over here: create a transactional business process that follows the best practices for large scale deployments. Okay, let's go into it, and we can give it a name. We can say that demo. Okay, create. Now it's using this. At first it will be looking a bit complex, but it's pretty easy if you'll be understanding every state. And so this is the RE framework, guys. Okay, these are the 4 states, right? Initialization, get transaction data, process transaction, and the end process. Inside this only we have to use our activities, and there are a different type of frameworks over here. Inside of these we can encapsulate our activities so that it will be coming inside of the try catch or the retry scope, and we can process our data. By default, this framework is shipped with the transaction item variable type Q item. You guys can see transaction item is Q item. So it has like everything over here only, right? We have created transaction item. Sorry, this template has created by default transaction item. Everything is over here. So you don't have to do anything, just you need to edit something in the configuration file. I'll let you know in a second what is the config file, how we can edit it, what is this state, this and this. Okay, so let's start. This is a type of state machine only. It's based on state machine. We have covered state machine in my previous video. Okay, so as you can see that here, I'll just explaining the crux out of this RE framework for now. Okay, in this video. So what it's doing right now, it's taking the initialization state at the starting. Okay, so in this it will be reading all those configuration file and initializing the applications as well over there. And if we are getting everything successfully done in the initialization state, so it will be going to the get transaction data state. Here it will be procuring data from the queue, from the table, or any other input variable that you have defined in your variable section, right? So it has the logic of procuring or bringing the data to the variable of transaction item Q item, or anything you can say. We can also use a variable of data table also, like data table type also. So it will be fine for us. Now here there are 2 possibilities over here. As you can see, there are 2 arrows. If there is a new transaction out of it, like we are using queues, there is a new transaction, so it will be going to process transaction state. Here all the processes will be happening, and your workflow will move ahead. If there is no data, like we have 10 transaction and 10 data in our this queue items, and there is no data left, so it will be going to the end process now, right? So here it will be ending the process. In this we have the logic of ending or closing or killing the application and the process here as well, right? If there is a new transaction, it will be processing transaction, and we have 3 different activities over here. Let me just do like this so that much more clearer. Okay, one second. Yeah, in process transaction state we can have 3 different type of transitions. First is the success transition. Just one second. Yeah, see, if our transaction is success, or whatever logic is inside of it, it's pass, like we have processed our transaction, so it will be going back to this state and getting the second transaction item data or whatever data that you have initialized in here, and it will be again going here checking this as well, that whether any new data is found or not. If any new data is found, it will be going back here, and this is the success loop, you can say, right? And now in process transaction, we can have another scenario if our application is not working or if it threw an system exception. So where it goes, it directly goes to the it's directly going to the init state, because here we are initializing our application. So if there is an application or a system exception over here, so it will be like we will have the need to again reinitialize the application or this whatever we are using over here, like whatever any custom applications we are using over here. So we will be able to need to reinitialize that over then in this state, right? Okay. Now in process transaction, there can also be a scenario where it threw a business exception. Now what is business exception, guys? For example, your client has said that a variable value like threshold value shouldn't be more than 5,000, right? So, and if it went above 5,000, so it will be throwing a business exception, right? So it will again going to the transaction data and again procuring the data over there, getting the data from the queue or the data table anywhere that you have initialized here, the logic out of it, and fetching the new transaction item, and again process will be continuing, and it will be checking also that if it doesn't have any transaction item left, so it will be going to end process and completing your REFramework workflow. And here also, if in this state only any system exception or any application is not working, it's freezed, it's not moving ahead, cursor is not moving, sometimes it happens, right? So it will be throwing an exception over here, and end process will be dealing this activity and closing our this process, right? So guys, this is it on REFramework, crux of it, right? This is very vast. Okay, so today we are going to be seeing this simple steps that are used in the REFramework to make our workflow more easier and more organized. Okay, so what we can do, we can go to data on the left hand side. If here is my photo, you guys can go to data, and I'm going in Conifg.xlsx, right? Okay, so as you open the configuration file of the REFramework, so what it shows, we have 3 sheets. Let's start from the starting sheet: settings, constraints, and assets. We have 3 sheets: settings, constraints, and assets, right? In the setting sheets, it's asking for a orchestrator queue name, whatever queue name. If we are using the queue item as a transaction item variable, then we have to initialize this queue name over here. So we can give this queue name over here, and guys, this workbook, but this Excel file is in the format of a key value pair, that is a dictionary. This is the key and this is the value over here, right guys? So whenever I need to procure any value, I have to call this key. I don't have to directly call here. I don't have to write this value because this can be confidential as well. Okay, so we have to write this value and it will be calling this because this is a dictionary, right? It's in a dictionary format. Cool. So it's saying orchestrator queue name, the value must match the queue name defined on orchestrator. This is the orchestrator queue name we have to define over here. Excuse me. Orchestrator queue folder, now in this it will be expecting the folder name, that is this. For me it's J, and for you it can be different. Folder name value must match a folder defining orchestrator, and queue specified as orchestrator queue name should be created in this folder. For classic folders, leave the field value empty. So it's basically dealing with the modern folders over here, right? This is involving our business process name, BPN. So right now it's showing framework because it's a default, right? We can give it any name, and this name will be shown in our output. Okay. Logging field, which allows grouping of log data of 2 or more subprocesses under the same business process name. So what is our business process name? We can define over here in this process name also. And guys, we can also use this, we can also provide our path also over here in settings file. For example, any specific URL we need to mention, we can provide in here in the settings feed. I'll be showing everything with the help of an example pretty soon, not in this video, pretty soon I'll be showing you that. Okay, let's go to constant sheets now. So first is max retry number. So in this, the values by default as 0. This is what it must be 0 if working with the orchestrator queues. If greater than 0, the robot will retry the transaction which failed with a system exception, must be an integer value. So if it's in, we are working with orchestrator, we need to be using here as 0, right? But if it's greater than 0, the robot will be retrying the transaction again and again, and max retry number, like for example I used 1. So robot will be retrying the transaction one time. I wrote 5, it will retrying the transaction 5 times. Okay, let's keep it this to 0 only, right? Max consecutive system exceptions, this is the 0 by default. The number of consecutive system exceptions allowed means how many system exceptions are allowed. So consecutive means back to back, right? If max consecutive system exception is reached, the job is stopped. To disable this feature, set the value to 0. For example, we have used that 2 system exceptions can be there, and in our workflow, one exception came over here at the starting phase, and again, the system got the workflow got ended, and again it ran, it went here as well. And in process transaction, we faced 2 system exceptions, so it will be closed because max consecutive system exception is 2. Okay, the job will be stopped, right? So let's keep this 0 as well. Now this is, if you want to take a screenshot, you can save here, get transaction data, processing transaction number, right? Everything will be, this is a part of logging, right? The main thing that is interesting over here is this: retry number, get transaction item, retry number, set transaction status. What it's showing, the number of times the get transaction activity is retried in case of an exception must be an integer value greater than 1. Means, for example, if in this any exception is there, right? So how many times this get, inside this we have I'll be opening this very soon, not in this video. Okay, you guys can do this if you like. So in this we have an activity called get transaction item, which is inside a retry and a try catch scope, right? So what it does, it will be procuring the item from the queue or any data table variable, any variable that you have built the logic inside of this state, right? So what it does, it's saying that number of times the get transaction item activity is retried in case of an exception, right? If any exception is there, how much times you need this to be retried, that the same transaction item will be there, right? Okay, and this should be an integer value which will be greater than or equal to 1. Means it can be 1 or more than 1, not 0. And this is retried number, set transaction status, this is 2 by default. And this is the number of times the set transaction status activity is retried in the case of an exception. This is what I showed you in the previous video of a challenging project, right? And how we can use the set transaction status to set our status of the queue, which is in progress, success, failed, aborted, abandoned. I will be covering this everything, right? Don't worry. The last is should mark job as faulted, false. This is by default. This is must be true or false. If the value is true and an error occurs in the initialization state or the max consecutive system exception is reached, the job is marked as faulted. So if we don't want this to happen, we can choose it to be true, right? For example, if the value is true here, and the error will be occurring in the initialization state, which is this state, right? Or the max consecutive system exception, this is reached, this is 0. Now the job is marked as faulted. If any of this, see it's written or over here, right? If any of this, out of these two will be this condition will be successful, so this job will be marked as faulted, right? Now this is a very important sheet, guys. Here you can define your assets except of credential assets. Why I am saying that, guys? Because this is expecting a single asset. What is in our credential assets? 1 second, I'll just quickly show you guys, right? This will be pretty much clearer if I'll be showing you. Okay, let's go to our orchestrator, right? And let's go to assets in my folder only. Let's create an asset, and the asset type will be credential, right? So if you will be noticing it very carefully, please notice that the credential activity is expecting a username and a password. And if you'll be going into boolean 1, credential 2, integer 1, text only 1, right? So whenever we are using the credential activities, it's expecting a username and a password. But in our sheet, in our asset sheet, we are only expecting it to give only one value. So we have username only or password, but we are needing both. So we can't define our credentials asset. We can't define our credential assets in the asset sheet. So don't be confused by this. This is an asset. This is a credential asset. We can define it in the asset sheet as well in the config file. No, you have to define it in the setting sheet. You can define here anything you can define. For example, you have given the credential as cred, right? And the username is something. Username is 12345 and password is 12345, right? Cred credential create, right? This credential has been created, right? So what I can do, I can copy this credential name. Okay, I can use any name over here, but I have to copy this credential name to the value section like this. Don't give your username and password over here. This is not confidential. This is confidential, you can say. Okay, and here I can use any name. You can see that credentials, right? And when we will be calling this credential, this value credential, we'll have to use this value, not this value, because see, this I have directly copied from my orchestrator asset section, right? In this I'll have to be copying this credential and using it into that I'll be showing right now. Okay, how we can use it. Okay, so let's quickly delete it, delete here as well. Okay, so this was the config sheet, guys. Pretty easy. Okay, now coming back to our workflow framework, sorry. So now let's move to the initialization state. What is this? Okay, go here. Don't be scared that what is this going on. No, this is nothing. Just chill. Okay, so you can see that we have a it's written read the config file. This is nothing but config file and initialize the application used in the process. Means we have to, if we are opening any browser or any application, we have to initialize it over here in this state. That's why it's called initialization. Pretty clear, pretty easy. Okay, let's go inside of it. This is the entry section. I have already taught you guys what are state machines. So guys, this is the entry section. Okay, let's do. This is the entry section like this, and this is the exit section. No exit is there. We can add any custom activity over here in exit also. Okay, like any logging activity. Now it is exiting the initialization. I'll be doing that. Don't worry. When I'll be showing you with the help of an example, I'll be doing that. Okay, so now this is inside a try catch mechanism we have, because it is the best thing to use in REFramework when dealing with the exception, because this is an exception handling mechanism. Okay, let's do this. Okay, now it's saying load configuration and open application. Now it is saying that system exception is nothing. So we are saving nothing inside system exception. So this is pretty much okay, right? I think you understand it. So if first run read local configuration file, if this will be the first run, for example, I ran my process and this was the first run. Okay, so an uninitialized config dictionary indicates that it is the first run of the process. So if it will be the first run, then only it will be reading the config file, reading this Excel sheet. It won't be reading the Excel sheet again and again and again. Okay, if it will be the first run, then only it will be reading the local configuration file, that is the Conifg.xlsx file. And how we can do that? We can do that by config is nothing. Now what is this config? You guys must be wondering, what is this config variable? Guys, you can see, as I told you, config is nothing but a dictionary of string and object. Okay, dictionary of string and object. And now you guys must be thinking that why it's saying string and object, why not string with string? Okay, let me show you guys. See, sometimes in your settings sheet or in your asset sheet, not in your asset sheet, we can define everything over here in setting sheet. This is much more, confidential in asset form, you can say, except of credentials you have to define over here only in the settings. I have told you why just before that. Okay, sometimes what we can do, we can use, for example, I'm saying number, and I can use like this also. So this is a string, but this is not a string, right? This is a integer. So that's why we have used, and sometimes it can be string also over here. This is a string, for example. This is a integer. So we are not hard coding any value over here. We are only using object. So object contains all this: integer, string. I hope this is clear. Why we are using string object in the dictionary parameters, right? Key value, like this is key and this is value. Okay, pretty much clear. This is the config I have shown you, right? System exception, the default, this value that we have saved is nothing. Default value is nothing over there, right? This is clear. These two parts are clear. Okay. So when it's saying that if configuration is nothing, means obviously then if it will be first run, the config file will be nothing, like it won't be initialized. So then it will be using all this. And let's go here in the else section. So else section is blank, like if it will be it will not be the first run, so it won't be coming inside of this, right? Okay. And yeah, so it is using the logging mechanisms to log the screen resolution whenever initialization state is being initialized or being run. So it's saying that the primary screen resolution is screen dot, this is the method of vb.net, don't worry, screen dot primary screen dot bounds dot width to screen. So it will be showing the dimensions of our display, like this my display is 2K, so it will be showing 2560 cross 1440. If your display is 1920 cross 10080, if your display is 8K, it will be showing 8xxx something like that into xxx something like that, right? Okay, so it's saying width and height. Width means this thing and height is this is your screen resolution it's trying to log. Okay, clear? And now you can see that we have invoked something called init all settings workflow. Let's go inside this, then we'll process ahead. Okay, so okay, so guys, in this we are initializing our this dictionary, you can see, right? This is inside an argument because we are invoking it, right? Let's start from the beginning. It's saying initialize, populate and output a configuration dictionary to be used throughout the project. Settings and constants read from the local configuration by that I just showed you in the Excel sheet, and the assets are fetched from the orchestrator. Asset values are values override settings and constant values if they are defined with the same name. Means asset is the main thing over here in the config sheet. It will be overwriting the values of settings and constant. Okay, if they are defined with the same name, means something we have defined in assets and constant, same name is defined over in asset sheet also. We have, for example, we have defined name in key in, because see, now it's dictionary of string and object, so I'll be using key value only. I'll not be using the number variable. This is not a variable, this is a key. We are calling the key to get the value of the value, right? This is a key value. Key is string, value is object. Dictionary of string and object. Pretty much clear, pretty easy. Okay, so now it's saying that we have, for example, defined a key of name of key of name. My name is J. Key of name J, right, in this settings sheet, and we have defined a key of name J in the constant sheet, and we have defined a key of name J in asset sheet as well. So it will be using the asset sheet values, not the settings and constant sheet. It's trying to say this in this line. Hope this is clear. Okay, using a log message to just log this, that initializing settings. Now it's showing it is throwing this string, this is initializing this dictionary of string and object that I have just told you, and saving it inside of this out underscore config. This config is nothing but the main config that we have seen here. See, if I'll be going like this, out config is throwing the data out of this workflow in a dictionary format, that is string slash object, and it's capturing it inside of variable config, and this config here is using this. Config is nothing, right? If this is fulfilled, see, we are using a if condition, so if a condition is being fulfilled, we'll be going inside of it and processing every activities over here. So let's go to init all settings. Okay, so this is clear as well, right? These two part are clear as well. Okay, now we are using a for each configuration sheet, because see, we have to use the configuration sheet to save the data of every key. That's why it will be initialized, right? We have to initialize our configuration dictionary. This is all what init setting is about, init state is about, to initialize our configuration dictionary and initializing our application and any custom code that we are using in the workflow. Cool. Okay, so we are using in underscore in config sheets. The value of underscore in config sheets will be coming from this. Why it's coming from here? Settings underscore constants, because see, config sheets is nothing but we are using settings and constant for now. In this part, in this part we are using settings and constants. We will be using this asset here. We will be using assets on a different for each loop, on a different try catch. We are only initializing here settings and constants, right? I hope this is clear. Okay. So we are using only settings and constant over here inside of in config sheets. Okay, item is sheet, this is the iterator item, and this whole container is nothing but an IEnumerable container. Okay, it's an interface in VB.NET that helps you to iterate over data. Okay, this is also a IEnumerable container only, right? So you can say perform an activity of a series of activity of each element of an enumeration. Okay, so now the sheet will be going over here. Now it's saying, it's taking what? It's taking settings sheet over here. I'll be showing this in debug also just in a moment. Okay, so it's taking what? Our this data over here is, first is settings. Settings is going inside of this thing, because we are using a for each now, right? Settings is going inside here and it's using the settings sheet. So now our this sheet is being read. Okay, this sheet is being read, because see, we are only using settings and constant in this for each. For asset we are using a different for each in try catch encapsulated, right? Okay, this is cool, because see, we are not using any range, because we have to use the whole range, and it's save inside of which? It's save inside a variable called dt settings and constant. So this is pretty clear that which sheets are there, because see, it's in the written in the information also, settings and constant sheet. So this thing is being defined over here, right? Okay, this thing is been saved inside of dt settings and constant, right? Our only this, which our sheet 1, right? Sheet is being saved inside of setting sheet is being saved inside of this dt settings and constant for this iteration, for a single iteration. Okay, now we have gone inside this for each configuration row, and inside of this we are only using the sheet. Now this is only a setting sheet working, not constant, because see, starting was a for each loop. Inside of this we have settings and constant. We iterated inside settings, and this is settings. Now we iterated how? We iterated through this. Sheet is nothing but settings over here, because our import arguments, if we'll see, we are getting we are getting settings as a first iterator over here, right? Now this is pretty much clear, right? So now we are inside settings and we are reading this thing 1, 2, 3. Now we are reading all these 3 things inside of settings sheet. I hope this is clear, guys. Now here it will be orchestrator in orchestrator queue name. It will be row will be picking orchestrator queue name, and see, if configuration row is not empty, read only non-empty rows in the sheet. Means the rows which have been filled will only be read, which are empty will not be read. Okay, so see, it's nothing but a small VB.NET expression. It's saying that string is null or white space, right? And row, see, this I have told you guys in my this challenging project how we can procure the name out of any data table, right? Just procure any column. This is a key column, right? This is a key column. So to string and dot trim. To dot trim is used to delete any unused white spaces, right? And string, this is a method. String is null or white space. Null means 0 or white space means empty. When string is null or white space, and we are negating this, so we are not using this. If string is not null or white space, then only we have to read this setting sheet and this 3 values, right? I hope this is extremely clear because I am literally going very slow. Okay, now we are using this is the condition, and if we are using, see, we have to procure what I told you before, we have to procure the value, right? So we are only using row underscore value because this value column is over here. We have to call this but procure this out of it. This is the beauty of dictionary, right? When we are to we have to fetch the value of the this value section, so we call always the key section, then we will be getting the value of the value section, right? Okay, so this is calling row value, right? Okay, and we are saving it inside of where? We are saving it inside of out config row name. We are saving this value. We are saving this value inside of this key. So whenever we are calling this key, we are getting this value, vice versa. Okay, this is pretty much clear, guys. We are using dot to string to convert to a string, and dot trim to remove any unused white spaces. Cool, guys. And we are using this out config because we have to throw this data out of our configuration file, right? There will be nothing inside of else. So, and now what will be happening? Now second thing will be there. Now this will be going, orchestrator queue folder will be gone here. I'll be showing this in data and in debug. Okay, now this is fine, right? So guys, this will be it for the settings and constants. Now again, if this loop will be done, now it will be going again here over here. Now constants will be red. Constants in like this will be red. This all will be red. 1, 2, 3, 4, everything, right? Okay. Now after this thing, our sheet has been read, our settings and constant sheet has been read. We have to read the asset sheet as well. So what we'll be doing, we'll be going over here, and it is inside of try catch also, just to avoid any exceptions when we are running in the runtime mode, right? Now we are hard coding it over here. This thing was only for settings and constant. This, just getting the value from the import argument from the main section was only for settings and constants. Okay. Now here we are hard coding the value asset because only one sheet is left. That's it, asset inside of this, right? And what we need to do, we are saving this inside of dt underscore assets. So this thing, this whole will be, if there are many values over, this whole sheet will be saved under dt underscore assets, right? Okay. So now we are iterating inside of assets. For example, we have something called j, and there is an asset called name, right? And a folder is this j. So it will be what it will be doing. For example, there is only one item for now. I'll be showing with more items as well while me doing a live project. Okay. So what it's doing now, it's using row as an iterator to iterate inside of this data table dt underscore assets. And what it's doing, it's picking j at the runtime. So j is here, right? J is here. And now what it's doing, it's using this row orchestrator asset folder. Row orchestrator asset folder is using over here, right? To save this asset into this thing. I hope you can see, right? Row orchestrator asset folder means this is being called row orchestrator asset folder over here, right? And asset name is get orchestrator asset. So this activity is nothing but, guys, it's getting the orchestrator asset from this orchestrator asset folder, right? From this name over here. Asset name will be this name, and this name value will be stored in the asset section of the orchestrator, right? The credential value or anything, but we are not using credential in the asset sheet, So we'll be using, for example, any text value is here, anything is there, so it will be procuring the data over from here. All the this values, exact values of your asset sheet will be here only, not here. Here will be only the asset name. Asset value and asset name had many much different, guys. Asset name will be calling this, right? Asset name will be calling this asset, and how we can call this name, this asset, we can call this name by this asset by this name J, right? Okay, this was just an example. Okay. And now it will be saying this. Now see, asset value is there. Now we have our username and password. For example, no, sorry, not username and password. We have our name over here, right? So name is stored over here, right? Name has some value. For example, name has also value J only, right? So this value, asset value, has been saved over here, and now you can see at the end we are calling row bracket parenthesis start name and bracket start close dot toString. So we are storing this value in our name only. At the end, see what I have to call to get this asset. I have to call this thing only, name. So this is the beauty of REFramework, guys. We just have to edit in the config sheet. From there only it will be taking everything. We don't need to edit over here. Please be very careful. No editing in this thing, in this section. If you need some peculiar data, then you can, but the config sheet is being designed like that you don't need to edit over here. You only need to edit in the configuration sheet, that is the config.xlsx, right? This is fine. Okay. And if we'll go to the catch section, so guys, this was the try section. Sorry, just minimize this was the try section. Okay. And if I will be going to the catch section, you guys can see. Okay, so catch is there. We have defined an exception over here. If asset name is specified but it cannot be retrieved, there is some problem with the orchestrator, but the asset name, like asset name is specified, asset name will be name only. For example, anything is there, right? Name is specified, due to some reasons it cannot be fetched from the orchestrator. See, it's written over there also. Log a message and throw an exception in case the asset is specified in the config file but it could not be loaded from the orchestrator. Pretty simple, guys. Okay, so there is an if condition, so it's saying that the same thing will be there. String is null or white space, and we are calling the name of name because we have saved this. We have saved our data inside of try only in the name section of the orchestrator name, right? We have saved our data of this asset inside name. Now I have shown you in the previous this thing here, right? See, we are showing inside the name only. So now what it's showing, now we have using throw. I have used throw and rethrow, explained throw and rethrow try catch in a separate video, right? That was a mind-blowing explanation, right? So I have also used that. So please go through it if you are not getting it. What is throw and what is rethrow, please go through that as well. Okay. So if this condition will be fulfilled, so it will be throwing an exception. The exception will be new exception, right? Loading asset row asset to string failed dot exception message. So it will be showing a exception message to us that what was the exception and what was the asset also, right? Okay. So here it is, and let's go inside of 1 second. Okay. We were having a separate try catch for a asset this value, and now if I'll be closing this, so this is a master try catch, right, guys? This is a master try catch over here. So now what is happening? It is throwing a exception in this is throwing another second time also. It's throwing the same exception. See, rethrow, guys, I have explained. Please, I request you to please go and check it out. Check that video also. So it's throwing the same exception in the rethrow also category, right? So this is the init all settings. Now this is closed. No. Okay, so I told you guys, see, if you will be concentrating over here in my videos and everything, so this will be easy. If you have any doubts, please write me down. I'll try my level best to resolve them. Okay, now we are here in this sequence. Now it's saying if the queue name is specified, if the orchestrator queue name is specified, override the queue name from in configuration file in case the argument and orchestrator queue name is specified. This provides backward compatibility with if we are using a previous version of 2018, right? Sorry. So what it's doing over here, just 1 second. Oh, okay. So it's using this thing. 1 second, guys. Yeah. Yep. It's using this condition over here. This is, I have told you this condition, function of .NET, VB.NET. String is null or white space in orchestrator queue name. So this is, we don't have a default value over here, right? This is an argument. N is in argument, right? If this thing, like if our orchestrator queue name is not empty, right? It's saying that is specified. That's why it's saying not empty. This is empty, but we have negated this statement by using not, right? So this is saying that if this thing is not empty, then what to do? Then use this in orchestrator queue name and store it inside of orchestrator queue name, right? So this is saying override the queue name from the in configuration file in case the argument, if we are using anything over here, any default value over here, so it will be overwriting the value of this, of queue name and queue folder in the config file, right? It will not be using that config file values anymore. It will be using this values which are hard coded over here. That's why it's using the in direction to procure the value, right? In is going this direction. I told you, right? This is clear. And if our orchestrator queue folder is not specified, then the same thing will be going with that also. If we have used any default value of the folder name over here, right? So it will be, then this activity will be in use, right? Okay. Now it's showing that invoke kill all processes workflow first run. Okay, kills all the window processes representing applications used in then business processes to assure that the execution starts in a clean state. For example, we have opened the same application which is being used in our workflow also, and we need to close that application on the first run. So that's why it's showing it will be killing that process, not closing it, killing it. Closing it is like closing the application safely without anything corrupted in the application, and killing is like forcefully closing that application. Okay, this is only invoked in the first run. You have to open this workflow to see it. So this is nothing but it's showing that killing the process. If our workflow is this application is open, so it will be closing it, right? It's saying that use the kill process activity to force the termination of the Windows processes representing applications used in the business process being automated. I just told you guys. Okay. Note that killing processes might have undesirable outcomes such as losing unsaved changes to files. That's also I just told you guys. Okay. So we can devise a logic over here. We'll be devising it. Don't worry. Okay. Let's go here. And it's saying that add log fields BPN, business process names. So it's a type of a logging field mechanism, type of a dictionary. So this is the thing I showed you guys. Log of business process name, right? It's adding this thing over here. Config is coming from where? Config is coming from your this thing, where it is here. Config is coming from over here, and this thing is throwing out of config, and config is being initialized over here. I just showed you guys, right? Okay, so we are done with this part as well. Okay, now let's go to this part. If max consecutive system exception exceeded, if max consecutive system exception number was reached, throw exception at initialization and go to end process state, thus finalizing the execution. If max consecution exception is 0, then any number of consecutive exceptions is allowed. So if we don't want to don't want to mark our job as faulted, we can use this as well. If max consecutive system exception exceeded, so it won't be running, right? And that's a good practice to keep it at 0 only, right? Over here, right? This thing. Cool. right? So it's saying that config max consecutive system exceptions, it's taking this value and that is 0, right? This thing is it's checking that it's converting it into an integer and checking, because see, if we are comparing, we need both the variable type same. Okay, this should be the integer and this should be the integer at first. This was a object here, this was an object, but we converted it into integer by using the cint, means or convert to integer method of the VB.NET language, right? So it's saying that if this thing is greater than 0, and also not, there will be another and also over here, right? And also consecutive system exceptions, not another and, sorry, there will be another condition also over here, and consecutive system exceptions is greater than config, we are taking the value from the this thing now, right? Our sheet max consecutive system exception. So what it will be doing, it will be closing the workflow now, right? It will be closing the job, right? That's what I told you over here, guys, right? Job is stopped, right? To disable the feature, we set the value to 0. Okay, now here it is very important, this activity, invoke activity. Let's open this, I'll let you know, guys, what it is. Now here we have to initialize our application. For example, if we are opening any browser at the init state or opening any application, so we have to do the logic over here or write the logic over here. So it's saying that open applications used in the process and do the necessary initialization processes, example login. What I told you guys right now, this is written over here. So this is just a log message we have to use over here, right? And what we can do, we can use a different, we can even make our own sequences, own different files also, and invoke them over here, not to make this init initialize all applications a bit, it will be clutter over here now. Okay, so this was it. And if we go to the exception part, because I showed you that this was all encapsulated inside a try catch mechanism. So if I'll be going to the exceptions part, catch part. So it's saying that failures during the initialization are considered system exceptions and lead to the end process state, thus finalizing the exception. So if there is an exception, so it will be before that what was that? Let's quickly show you. Before that, system exception was nothing, but here it is, system exception is exception. Okay, so we have given a value to it, right? So guys, this was a brief of initialization state. Let me just run the workflow, okay, and I'll let you guys know that what is going on here. To run the workflow, let's do one thing. Let's quickly go here, RPA challenge, and let's automate this site for now. Okay, let's just open this site. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to use this browser. For that, we need to initialize a URL. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's do here and go with RPA URL. Okay, this will be the URL over here, like this, because we are not hard coding anything inside the workflow, we are hard coding inside the config file. Okay, like this, and copy this. Okay, so this will be picked. I'll have to call this key to get this value. Let's give it a quick description. URL of the RPA challenge site, right? This is it. Saved it. Okay, now let's go to our this thing. Now we have to open a browser, where I told you guys to open any application in the init all application section, right? Let's go with this, scroll down a bit, and there is init all applications workflow. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's create another sequence over here, and let's say login RPA let's do one thing, RPA challenge login. Okay, create. So our new file has been created. Inside of this, we can use our this activities, right? What we can do, we can use a use application browser inside of this, just to automate this, right? Yeah, just to log in this So we have used this, and of here we'll be using our this created. See, if you will be going here in the init all applications now, so you will be seeing that we have a in config argument. This is what, this is our dictionary, and we can procure the name from the dictionary as well. What we need to do, we need to first, let's close this, and let's quickly invoke this over here, and let's create a in argument here as well. Okay, in, we can say URL, right? This is the in argument. We have created an argument, guys, and let's give this argument over here in argument. Okay, and save it, and over here let's give what, in config. In config we have to write inside of that, what we can do, we have to write the key as a string. So we can use this thing over. It's a good practice to copy and paste, because sometimes you can mismatch or add a white space over here as well. That can create a big issue. Dot to string. Okay, so what it's doing, it is procuring this RPA URL from the config file like this, and this URL is going inside of this RPA URL, and over here we are procuring this RPA URL. This thing contains now our URL. Okay, this is the key. We are procuring the value out. We are calling the key, we'll be getting the value. This is the beauty of dictionary, and we are passing this value inside of this in URL. Okay, and in URL is nothing but our this thing. So now we have opened this website over there, right? And let's do one thing, that we have just opened it. Okay, so this is it. Just save this as well. I'll be using slow step to demonstrate you guys what will be going on here. Okay, save. Okay, debug. Let's close this as well. Okay, slow step. One second, I'll just use this breakpoint over here to show you guys a much more depth view, you can say. Now let's focus on the local section. It's showing the properties of this instance and the previous instance as well. Okay, now I'm using a step into. Please watch very careful, guys. So what we are using system exception is nothing for now, is null. Okay, it will be used as nothing. Okay, now you can see our this thing, primary screen resolution will be printed here in the output section. Okay, primary screen resolution is 2560 into 1440, my screen is 2K, so it's showing this. Now it's going inside the init all settings where our config file is being initialized. Okay, step into. Now it's inside of this. Now let's see what is happening over here. This is very critical, just to know that how your config file is being initialized. Very critical in understanding the init section of the REFramework. Step into initializing settings, print it over here. Now it is printing this thing, out underscore config is null right now. Now see, I'll just after I press step into, it's populated with dictionary string object 0. Right, this is what this had been populated, right, guys? Okay, now it is inside the for each configuration sheet, and it is reading this data table. Now we have to close our workbook every time we are using the REFramework, this config file, sorry, otherwise it will be throwing exception that this process is being used by another activity. Okay, step into. Now see, the dt underscore settings and constants value was being populated with what, with this thing. As you can see, guys, this was name value description. Okay, I'll just quickly do like this. So dt underscore settings and constants value was populated with what, with this thing. Okay, this is name, orchestrator queue name. Orchestrator queue name was there in the config sheet. Orchestrator queue folder, logf business process name, framework, and this is what, this is showing a description of that as well. And we have used this thing as well, RPA URL HTTP this is, and this is showing the URL of the RPA challenge site. as well. Okay, so this is successfully working for now. Okay, so we are taking what? We are taking now the setting sheet, because we are inside the for each loop of the this thing. Settings are constant, and now our setting sheet is over there. You guys can see also. In config sheet is settings and constants. Okay, cool. And now we are using the sheet variable. Sheet is what? Sheet is settings. See guys, I'm letting you guys know in the runtime, so please we watch very carefully. Sheet is what? Sheet is settings. Sheet name is settings here, right? Now our this thing will be row. It will be coming inside of row. Now you can see row is nothing but data row, and it has picked what? It has picked the orchestrator queue name, right? You can see that as I told you, it is picking the settings sheet. It has picked the setting sheet over. Now it is again using a for each loop to iterate inside of setting sheet, and it has picked this thing orchestrator queue name and process ABC queue. For example, this is queue, right? Orchestrator queue name. Okay, and this is the description of the orchestrator queue. Okay, now you can see that our out underscore config row and name was populated with the value. Let's see this. Out underscore config row, it's not over there. Row name out underscore config row. 1 second. So it's been populated with the value of the key, right? This is the key, this is the value, guys. So it's been populated with the value of the key. Okay, this is inside an if condition, so it's showing over here. Okay guys, true. This is throwing as true. Why true? Because our configuration row is not empty, that's why. Okay, we can see over there as well in the immediate section. If I'll just route out config, and we can say row, and then we can say as name, right? Dot toString dot trim, and if I'll press enter, so it's saying that workflow tree compounder array, this is row is not declared. Okay, row is not declared. Row is there. Okay, row. Okay, 1 second. Row underscore name dot toString. Just copy this and let's watch this over here as well. Okay, row is not declared and accepted due to its protection level. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's read this again and let's see what it's saying. So now it's taking what? It's taking the next sheet, that is the constant sheet. Okay, now you can see the sheet is constants over there. Okay, now it's taking the constant sheet and picking all the data over there. Okay, I'm going in very depth, guys. Now this loop has been completed. Now it will be going to the asset sheet. Okay, so we don't have any asset over here, right? Let's quickly do one thing. Let's open this thing, documents, because it will be throwing an error. Okay, it didn't read this because we deleted that in good time. Okay, so now it went here because it didn't find any assets over there, right, in our folder, right? So it went outside of it. Now this invoke workflow has been complete. Now it's going inside of it. Now if orchestrator queue name is specified, so it will be saying this inside, saving this inside of orchestrator queue name if it is specified over here. Sorry, over here, right guys? Okay, it's using the invoke kill process to killing all your processes, and we can use a kill process activity over here to kill the Chrome browser that if it's opened by default before. Now it will be invoking the init applications workflow from here. Step into, now we are in the main workflow that we are trying to automate. Okay, stepping into it guys, and this thing is opening applications. Okay, RP challenge, and now we are opening challenge, we are opening the application through the invoke workflow. It will be going inside this workflow and it will be checking this, and it opened it. Okay, right, it opened it. How? Because we have used an in underscore URL, and that in underscore URL is containing the https rpa challenge.com, because we have procured the data from the config sheet. Okay, this is it, right? So we have initialized our this activity over here, right? So this was the small this thing of the 1 second, just quickly stop this. Okay, so guys, this was a small small demo of the this initialization state and about REFramework. I'll be procuring the data from the queue or the data table on a next video in the get transaction data state, right? So we'll be covering all those 4 states differently, right? Because this is a big video, and guys, please don't mind if I yawn between, because see, I always make the video at night only, so I hope you won't mind guys. Okay, so let's conclude this video, and I hope if you have any doubts regarding the RPA, so please ask me in comments, right? And just be with me, because I am being I'm using this time to share my knowledge to you guys. So it will be very nice if you'll be showing some support. I'll be obliged guys. Thank you so much, and the support is good. Okay, because see, whatever I know, I would love to let you know guys, like, in my own layman words. Okay, it's making it very easy. Whatever hurdles that I have encountered, I don't want that anybody who is seeing this video should be encountering the same hurdle, that same time consuming process that I used, and I faced. Okay, so this was it guys, and if you like the content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Do share this content with your friends as well. If you have any doubt, please feel free to ask me in the comment section, and as always, keep learning.